I'm here with author and designer Brenda Schweder. And Brenda, you specialize in working with steel wire.
I do.
Love this bracelet that we're going to be making today, the Scribble. Great name.
It's great, and it's easier to do as a scribble.
Oh, good. So tell us how we get started with steel wire.
Well, steel wire, the whole process is that steel is my favorite thing to work with because it's a lot easier to do, has a lot more forgivability, which is good for me. But there are a few things that you need to worry about, and that one of them is to basically you need to clean the wire very well.
So you use steel wool for that, or the brass brush?
Steel wool or the brass brushes for that. And then you need to set the wire with a wax, and I use microcrystalline wax. And so as we all know, that steel, especially if you live in a humid climate, it tends to rust, and we don't want our jewelry rusting on us.
Right, so before this project you would brush it down and add the wax.
Mm-hmm. And actually I actually use the steel wire for this particular project because this gauge wire is so fine, I can just wrap this wire right inside, and then
perfect.
I get a nice, I get all the surface covered.
Great tip. Mm-hmm. So it looks like these mandrels you made yourself.
I sort of did. I got them at the hardware store, and basically they just already come in foot lengths, Katie, from your Ace or wherever, the local hardware store. And it's just, I tend to use things that I can find easily. So I want to find something that I can wrap around. Sometimes I'm even in my pantry looking for a good can.
right. You're just looking for a mandrel.
I'm just looking for a mandrel.
Well, what wire is this that you're wrapping?
This is steel, and this is 24 gauge, and that comes in easy dispenser packs. And I just wanted something that was going to be a little more delicate than what I usually work with, which is 16 gauge.
Okay, so how do you get started?
What we do is we take one of our easy to find mandrels and take a length, which this is all on the website, and start wrapping it around. I wrap 20 times.
Is that so that you get evenly, all the scribbles are the same size?
Right, we do want some consistency. Anytime I'm doing a link bracelet, I want some consistency in the links so that you can kind of have that nice repetitive pattern to it. And then what I do is take, and when that comes off the mandrel, I take and put a piece, just a 3-inch piece of 28 gauge, and this is actually a little bit thicker than what I usually use here. But tightly wrap that, just like you would a bread twist tie. And so you've got one point where it's sort of stanching together. And then at that point, I'll start spreading these out. And you can see that I'm starting to do that here. And we just gently spread these all out until they get to be a ring.
All right.
And it really stays, you had asked before if it stays in place. It really does. The technical industry term for this wire is bend and stay wire.
Oh, so it has a little bit more memory than lots of our viewers will be familiar with working with sterling or copper wire that's been enamel coated. So this wire is going to just automatically have more of a memory.
It pretty much does. It comes to us dead soft already, and it's annealed, and it has a carbon coating from being annealed.
So as you're working with it, you're actually work hardening it.
Exactly, and even by putting it around the mandrel, it's work hardening.
Right. So are you also then? So I know you're going to make some more of these to create the bracelet. How do you get started with your jump rings?
The jump rings are just taking a mandrel, another type of mandrel. This one I wanted smaller jump rings, so I chose this mandrel and just basically tightly wind a different kind of wire. You see that we're using copper here, but you could use brass, which is what I did in the sample. So once I get that wire, that coil cut, I take it off, and then I just snip a couple jump rings right off here, one at a time. I'm using the flat edge of this against one edge, and I'm holding both sides of my wire so I don't snip a piece into your face.
And then you turn your, I just want to point out that you turned your cutter around so that the flush side is at the other end of the ring, so that when they come together, they both have the flat side.
I always have to think about this. I did. I turned it around.
You did.
and then I just do the very next one, and that's how you get nice and ring. Now normally what I'll do is I'll take and I'll put these on my bench block
And then saw.
to saw them, but even to work harden them and to get a little bit more texture.
To hammer them.
Yeah,
I see.
but I like this roundness to this because it sort of went with the roundness of the whole design. So I
Right.
just left it, and it's work hardened enough because I've already put it around the mandrel and
Okay.
made the coil.
So when you're ready to connect two of these guys together then, does it matter where you are working on the scribble?
It does. Where I have done the connecting is where I just take 2 or 3, and that sort of keeps that whole thing together then. So if I can show you on this one, this obviously would be hidden here on this one. But when I take it around, I know it'll stay, you know, somewhat closed. And I just try to get a few of them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Can you show us just attaching those two together?
I
those
sure
guys?
can. So and obviously this one's a little bit different gauge. We'll
Right.
take 2 of the same.
Okay.
I've already opened this jump ring, and I'm just going to use two pliers. Some people like to use 2 chain nose. I'm just using whatever is
Whatever's
available,
handy, right.
because that's
Because
who
you're
I
just that
am.
kind of gal.
And I'm going to put both of them on. And then I'm going to close that up.
And it's the same technique when you're ready to attach the clasp, you would just use the jump ring.
Exactly. And I
Okay.
didn't make a special clasp for the other side just because I kind of wanted that fluidity of only having
Right.
one.
You could just link directly to your design. Good. Well, thank you so much. This is a great project. Some
Thanks,
really
Katie.
good tips.
Thank you.
And we will be right back.